Ba-dum-bum-ba-bum. What is up, everybody? Mateo almost here, your host with the most, Young Mo, 10 Minutes with Teo, Season 2. We're here, San Diego, California. We finally made it. Thanks for joining us. The video is about to pop up next. Notice the blur around me. I'm trying new things. Thanks for being here with me. Let's get it. Hey, welcome back to another episode of 10 Minutes with Teo. We're finally back, man. Season 2, Episode 1, back in full effect, and I can't believe it. It's taken me long enough to get to this point, but we're here, baby. I appreciate y'all sticking with me and being here for this journey, man. Sticking along for the journey and, rocking with me. I'm back in San Diego now. I'm back here in South San Diego, living my best life, doing my dang thing. I moved back from Oregon in July. I believe the date was July 5th. I left Corvallis, Oregon, and I arrived here in San Diego July 7th. And man, it's been great, man. It's been a journey ever since. A lot has gone on since July to now, which is September 12th. So shoot, it's been a lot of change, a lot of life. But things are great, man. I am in grad school now, going for my master's in public health. My concentration is health promotion and behavioral science at the School of San Diego State University. Great university to be at, accredited public health program, studying my butt off, doing my dang thing. I am now working for the San Diego Unified School District. So that's great. I am coaching youth wrestling. I'm working out daily. I'm connecting with people and I'm spending time with my family, which is all the things that I've set out to do thus far. There's a lot more things I want to do, but I'm in the process, baby, and I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be living life and doing what I love. So, it is Suicide Prevention Month, or Suicide, I guess, Acknowledgement Month. There's so many new months that come about here and there. In the past, these are not things that you usually ever talked about or heard about, but now they are, they're present in our lives. And I think it's a great opportunity to reflect on topics that are very serious and very pressing in our times. Suicide rates have gone up tremendously in the last couple decades. Depression, anxiety, things like that are on an extreme rise. We're seeing, I mean, man, we're just seeing a lot of things. Fentanyl overdoses, an increase in not only the actions themselves, but the fact that they are now recorded on a higher level, that they are studied on a higher level, and that they are present in your face. You can see them on social media. You see when somebody shares somebody who passes away, or you see a post of disaster. You see these things that happen every day that affect our psyche, affect our mental, and honestly can bring us down a lot, bring the mood down, and it's very sad. But it's important that we take the time to reflect on these topics and talk about them and use whoever's coming up with these months and putting the initiative and the time in to put an emphasis on these things, that we use this time wisely to actually talk about these things and to reflect and to connect. I think it's very important for us to do so and to acknowledge in order to be better going forward. Suicide is a very heavy topic. It is something that um, has been present in my life for some years now. The first person I have ever known to die due to suicide was a friend of mine named Chris Villanueva. Chris was a college student at the University of California, San Diego. He was a wrestler. He was a friend of mine. He went to my church, and he is somebody that we lost very young. I may have been in maybe 11th grade when Chris passed away, maybe 10th grade. I don't quite remember, but I remember we all gathered at the beach for a candlelight vigil for Chris. And I remember just the amount of people who were impacted, the amount of people who showed up, seeing the faces that of the people that knew Chris, who loved him, who cherished his presence, and the fact that he was no longer with us and now missed. For me, it was very saddening to experience such a thing, but I wouldn't say it was so heavy on my heart as to experience such a close loss. Chris was my friend. However, he was a little bit older than me. We didn't go to the same high school. We went to the same church. We had conversations. We talked. He was a very, fun loving guy, very funny, loved to laugh. I remember, he was dedicated to wrestling, very smart. But, he wasn't my necessarily best friend or a sibling or a family member, or somebody that I spent a tremendous amount of time with. And so years went on. I lost other friends to suicide, some other people from church. I heard about suicides, but in November of 2022, I was affected directly. My father, Mario Olmos, he passed away due to suicide November 4th, 2022. And I remember when the shock set in. I remember I was in Pennsylvania getting ready for the first duel of the season, about to wrestle Lehigh. It was the night before, and I got a call from my mother saying that my father had passed away, that he had committed suicide in our home. The feeling that comes on you in a moment like that is one that you never forget. It's one that still haunts me, that still makes me worried for phone calls from family members, that makes me feel that anxiety of, when is the next tragedy going to come? When am I going to lose the next person? When am I going to take the next L? And it can be hard to really appreciate present moments when you are feeling fear of what's to come. I got the call that night, was, extremely heavy. I could spend days talking about it, but just the feeling of sitting in my hotel room there in Pennsylvania, I was still trying to maintain my weight for the duel. I told my teammates I was going to continue to compete and wrestle. I ended up not doing that to take care of myself, but just trying to understand what in the world is going on, why this happened. I don't have a father anymore. He's no longer with me. Trying to let those feelings settle in as they begin to fester up and, almost expand within you. The questions come in, the also the silence, the way that you can think about so many things at once, but yet you're almost empty mentally, physically, spiritually, and just trying to take your next breath is difficult. Not in the sense of I was, crying, hyperventilating. I obviously was crying. I was down, but just trying to make sense of what life means, what is going on, what it is. And suicide is extremely heavy. My dad struggled with mental illness. I wouldn't say it was clearly as evident as to say that we could have predicted a suicide was coming up, was going to come. My dad had struggled with insomnia, anxiety, depression, throughout his life. As we were younger, he went through some serious bouts of insomnia and anxiety. But being that we're just kids, it is hard to understand the complexity of such things, the 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 heaviness of a situation like that, and where we could support. Years went on. My dad was good. He got back in his groove, and things in life started to get tough. Things in life started to get rocky. But my dad was always a positive guy. If you knew him, he was always life of the party. Even during these hard times, he was still, very social, very active, very talkative, played music, loved to laugh, loved to do things. We would hang out with him, have great conversations, went on a trip to Mexico that summer before he passed. And, just living life, man. You wouldn't have thought, suicide was on the horizon. And that's one of the toughest parts about suicide, is the fact that you don't necessarily know all the time. They say a lot, it's the most happy-go-lucky ones. It's the ones who, smile the most, who are the life of the party, who are, the loudest in the crowd that you can point them out that tend to be the ones to go. And I can say that to be true with my father. It is strange to think that somebody like that, who is so full of life and loves life so much, could go down that way. And it's something to be said about the difficult nature of not necessarily diagnosing, but to know when somebody could possibly be on the verge of taking their life or looking to take action on such a thing. And that is the difficult part of the fact that you cannot control the individual. I was in Oregon at the time, well, Pennsylvania, obviously the day of, but I was in Oregon training while my dad was back in San Diego. He had come to visit me in September. And, although I could tell, there was anxiety, there was things going on, he was still very loving, still told me he loved me. We had a good time. We shared great conversations, laughs, and that was the last time I ever got the chance to see him face to face. A month later is October, and November 4th, which is only a few days into November, he passes away. I was not there to see the month of October. I was not there to see those last few days and see the look on his face, see what he was like. He had been texting me some things as I was traveling. I was trying to communicate, but he was talking about future dates later in November. So I was hopeful and praying that we would make it to those dates, have conversations then, and, be able to discuss things, but he didn't make it. And so that's one of the toughest parts of suicide, is trying to understand, trying to see the signs, trying to know when somebody is crying out for help, know when you need to intervene or call a professional or call the police, call somebody to come physically help this person, take them out of this situation. I always think to myself, if I would have been able to know more and been able to get my dad into a hospital or get my dad, call the police, that I could have saved his life and that he would still be here today. And that's something that I struggle with, the guilt of that, the heaviness of that on my heart, to know that there's more I could have done. And I wish, I would have known so I could have done that more. But unfortunately, that's not the way life went. And you cannot control life, and you cannot control an individual, sadly, when they choose to take that step, when they choose to take that leap, when they choose to commit to such a thing. There is no possible way, unless they're in the hospital or they're in the setting, to see or know. And even then, they can find a way to escape. They can find a way to find a quiet place to do what they're setting out to do. And that's one of the saddest parts, is knowing that the person you love feels like they cannot bear this life any longer. Knowing that life has gotten to be too much, or whatever demons they're fighting, not even necessarily on the outside, but in here, are so powerful that they do not feel they want to live another day, another second, another moment. And knowing that person loves life, knowing that person loves you as well, knowing that person loves, but they want to be somewhere softer, somewhere more gentle, somewhere quieter, somewhere where they can be at peace with their thoughts and their mind and their hearts. And so I struggled a lot. I struggle still with understanding, first, how I could have helped my dad more. I constantly found myself going back to the times where we were ungrateful, or I was ungrateful. I didn't say thank you enough. I didn't show gratitude. I didn't show enough love to my dad. Men tend to be the silent sufferers. Men commit suicide in rates 80-90% more than women, 4 times as likely. I see the statistics, majority, and I've known 8 to 9 suicides in my life. All have been men: Chris Villanueva, Brad Nettles, Daniel Kennard, Bobby Maupin, Mark Crampton, my father, JT, one of my former wrestling teammates who just recently committed suicide, Wyatt Wallace. I mean, Stitch or Stitch, I believe his name was, or the guy who was worked on Ellen, he passed away not too long after my dad. Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Kurt Cobain, all of these men. I've known very seldom women to commit suicide, and that is not to say that women do not commit suicide. That is not very important to address all around, between men and women. It's just that men are the population that tend to die from suicide more. And it says a lot about, the problems that need to be addressed within male culture, within the world. Men tend to be the silent sufferers, especially men of my dad's generation of the past. We are now coming into a new era where, topics and conversations of, social emotional learning and emotional intelligence and being open and vulnerable are coming into the light finally. But there was a time when those feelings were not to be talked about, were not to be discussed. The fact that you have to get up and provide and go to work and, do your due diligence every day. The Bible says that the man's curse is that he will toil all the days of his life to provide for himself and his family. And that is very much true. Men are the toilers of the world. Women work very hard. Women are mothers. They work in professional, high level jobs. They are CEOs. They are lawyers as well. They are doctors. They are all the things. But, a lot of men do take on the harder jobs of, construction work and, being in the infantry, you know, working on power lines, being the people who take on a lot of the stress of the world, on top of that being the ones to provide for their families. And this is not to say that women don't do these things, that there aren't single mothers, that like one I live with now who works very hard, who takes on a lot of stress to provide for us. But to say that that is what men have taken on themselves in the world, even through the history of patriarchy and how men we are biologically dominant, that we have taken on these roles of high power, so to speak, in the world. You look at the world's leaders, dictators, most of the presidents, men, men, men. And with that power, even with that success or whatever you want to call it, being a CEO, being this and that, comes also the stress of the weight of the world that you must carry, the responsibility, whether you choose to do good or you choose to do bad. Also, the weight of trauma for men they carry throughout their childhoods, how their fathers treated them, how their fathers were treated, um, their mistakes, their heartbreaks as well, the things that they struggle with that they may not want to talk about. I know my dad struggled to talk about these things with us because he's the father. He always felt he had to provide. He felt he had to keep us safe and protect us from the world. But as in protecting us, he's creating a wall of himself in which the bombs and the arrows and the toxicity and all these things are being thrown onto him, feeling like he's protecting us, but not protecting himself, so to speak. And so the second part for me, struggling with suicide, the suicide of my dad, was feeling like he took something away from me, from us, taking away a father from my sisters, taking away a grandfather from my kids, taking away a friend to his friends, taking away a sibling to his siblings, all of the above. The fact that he took away from me what I needed, that I don't get to see my dad grow old, the time that I don't get to have that. When I get married, when I do this, when I have my first child, when I have these victories, I don't get to be there with him. And my dad was very healthy. My dad was 62 years old. He ran a lot. He swam. This is a picture of him just not too long ago. He swam a lot. He played his guitar. He was very active. He ate very healthy. Physically, he was strong. We have good genes in our family. His dad, my grandfather, is still alive. We have long living people in our family. But the fact that I don't get those years with my dad anymore, I don't get to spend that time with him. I don't get to have those conversations that I need to have about being a husband and being a father. The fact that my dad was a man, and having that man in my life to hug me and kiss me on the cheek and tell me he loves me, I don't get that kind of affection back from a man in my life. And maybe somebody will come along, maybe a guide, maybe somebody who will be there to give me advice, but nobody can replace your father. nobody can replace that person in your life. And me and my dad were very close. He was a he was close to us all. Taking away a father from my sisters and being the oldest, being a man, now I have to step in. Now I have to take the weight of the world on my shoulders, and becoming an adult very quickly, understanding that there's a new responsibility on me, whether I like it or not. My mom, my sisters, they tell me, don't take this responsibility on. We do not want you to stress. We don't want you to feel like you have to do any sort of thing. And I understand, and I'm grateful for the fact that they care about me enough to say that. But the truth is, I'm going to take on this responsibility whether I like it or not. I am the oldest. I am a man. I am the only man in this immediate family. Without the father there, it is not my job necessarily right now to provide for my sisters and my mom, and I'm grateful that I don't have to financially or anything, but also just to be there, to be in the presence, to lead by example, to have that role, to be a protector. If somebody were to come in this door right now, the fact that I'm going to get up and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to protect, and the responsibility of a lot of other things that comes with death, death of especially of your parents, that you deal with, property and all this other stuff that comes with it, the cleaning out of the life of a person that is leaving behind, especially prematurely. And so with suicide comes so many things, um, and it's heavy, man. It comes with a crap load, literally, um, and it's very tough. It's very tough. I've done most of my crying. I did a lot of crying. I did a lot of sadness, and then came, the anger, the resentment, the why, the how. I didn't physically see. I didn't witness the scene. What I'm picturing in my head. Then came the anxiety of death itself for me. The fact that death is, it is imminent. The fact that death is the place of us all eventually, coming to terms with that. Where is my father? Is he in heaven? Is he in hell? Is he, you know, just sleeping? Is it darkness? Is it absence of conscious? What is it? That struggle also came. And so it's a heavy burden to bear, but it is what it is. You cannot control the individual. You cannot control life. And I only wish that my father is at peace. I believe in a heaven. I believe God cleanses. I believe my dad knew God, and he feared him, which is possibly one of the reasons why he felt like he didn't deserve to live anymore. But to say nonetheless that if you are on one side of suicide, which is the person who's been affected, stay strong. I'm going to say it gets easier, but it doesn't get easy necessarily. It's static in the background. It's a weight on your shoulders that you always feel, but you have to be strong enough to carry it. And by strong, you can, and being strong also means being weak. But it does take strength. I know, and today, we say, no need to be strong, but you do need some strength. You have to have a why. You have to have a reason to keep going. You have to do something. I'm grateful I had wrestling right after my dad passed. I went back 2 weeks after the funeral, and I got right back to work, and I had the best season of my life, and I saw victories, and my dad was with me. And so it felt almost selfish that I was having these victories, that I was doing, my thing, doing what I love to do despite having such a tragedy. But I knew that people were watching. I knew my family was watching. I knew that, this was my why. My why was my family, and I had to be a light in their life during one of the darkest times. I had to shine for everybody to see so that there would be hope. And I knew I had to carry that burden. After every victory, I cried. After, we won the Pac-12 championships, I won an individual title, I cried. The night after NCAAs, I cried. I beat two-time All-American, number 4 ranked, in front of 7,000 fans at my home gym, Gill Coliseum at Oregon State University. I cried that night because my dad wasn't there to see me. My dad put me in wrestling. I cried. I cried before my senior night match. People will tell you, I sat there and cried before the first tournament back, which was Cliff Keen Invitational in Vegas. I cried. Coach Roden will tell you. But through that vulnerability, I found strength. I also lost the fear of losing because I lost the best thing I had, which was my father at the time. Grateful to have my mother, my family. But we're bound to lose in this life. There's a Mike Tyson video that says we're bound to lose in this life, whether it be somebody you love, whether it be a thing, whether it be money, whether it be a relationship, and in your life. Eventually we are bound to lose, but through that vulnerability of knowing that you can't hold on to any one thing, there's strength in that, there's love in that, and it makes you cherish those moments. It made me cherish moments so much greater, especially with the ones I love. It made me want to call the ones I love more. It made me want to kiss and hug up on my mom more, and show love to my sisters more, and show love to my uncles and my aunts and all these people in my life. It made me want to cherish these moments more, and through it I found strength in being able to grind through and find my weakness and cry, while I'm training sometimes, cry in the late nights when I'm working out, when I'm cutting weight, but know that I'm pushing through. I'm pushing through and I'm pushing through, and that pushing through, that grinding also gave me strength to know that I'm strong, and I have to be stronger than my dad. I have to. As selfish as that sounds, I have to be strong to be here for my people, because I've had times I wanted to quit too. I had times before my dad passed that I wanted to quit, and he knew that. My parents knew that. And these were real cries out for help, where I felt like I didn't want to live anymore, where I felt like I didn't want to live another second of another day, because I was in so much pain, both physically and spiritually and mentally. But through the grinding, through the processing, through the carrying that weight on your shoulders, standing up straight over and over, you find that strength, and you build that foundation, and you continue to move forward. And along with that, you find resources, whether that be people, whether you need to reach out and get therapy, which I need. I haven't had the resources, the time, the money to, or the space to get therapy, especially since moving back and now working. But I make resources of my own, whether that's working out, whether that's getting time in the sun, and putting my feet in the dirt, and going to the beach. Going surfing is one of my number one things I've been able to do since I got here. Being in the ocean is so freeing for me. Whether it's talking to my loved ones, talking to people I trust, going to church, prayer, God is everything. He is the beginning and the end. He is the end all be all. And so having God, having scripture to read, and to know that you could connect to those stories of people who are down bad. The Bible's full of stories of people who are struggling horribly, who have messed up, who have made mistakes, who are crying out for help. And just reading those stories and connecting, knowing that I'm not alone, knowing that this is what life is. I'm not too privy on all of the resources out there. I'm not going to hit you with the National Suicide Hotline number. I will probably put it in the description, but I'm not too knowledgeable necessarily on all these things that are going on with suicide prevention, and who you can call and things like that. That's something I must do more research on. But my battle, and my kind of the things that have helped me, are things that I've sought out, the things that have come to me naturally, the things that I've prayed for, and the things that I've had in my life that I'm grateful for. And I still struggle every day, but I have people I can call right now. I have people I can talk to. I have people I can connect to on the side of people who have experience with suicide as well. And I have people who I can just talk to, have a good conversation with, that'll make me feel good. I take care of myself, my health, exercise, eating right, drinking enough water, getting good sleep. All these things have helped me. And there was a struggle. It was a process. There was times when I wasn't sleeping at all. I was very anxious. I was very anxious about death. I was very anxious about my dad's passing. I was very anxious about, I'm trying to figure out where he's at and what he's feeling. And I miss him so much, and trying to figure out these feelings, feeling anxious about, my role in the family, how I have to protect my sisters, feeling like, who am I going to lose next? What is the next tragedy that's going to come in my life? But I found ways to work through that. And I'm different. Everybody's different. Some people need a little more guidance. Some people need more. So please do your research. If you're on the other side of suicide, if you feel like you are contemplating, if you feel like you don't want to live anymore, all I can say is don't quit one more day. And really, if you're crying out for help, go somewhere. Go to a professional. Go to the police. Go and get help. If you can't, think about those who love you. Pray. Think about those who love you. The effect of suicide is rippling. It is like an atomic bomb being dropped on a person. It is something that lasts a lifetime, the pain that lasts a lifetime, and it hurts. And just know that you are loved. You are loved even if you don't feel it. If you don't believe in God, that's fine. But just know that when you grind through tough times, things work out. God comes through when you stay faithful. Whether you believe in him or not, stay faithful and grind through, and you will see a brighter day. I promise you that sun will come up, because it's going to come up, it's going to come up, and it's going to go down. It's going to come up, and it's going to go down. And somebody's... Hello?
Are you doing a podcast?
Yeah, trying to.
Okay, make sure everything behind you looks okay.
It looks crazy, but it's okay. I'm making it work.
No, don't. They can't be saying messy stuff.
All right. I'll call you
How's
back in
Summer doing?
Good. I'm going to check on her right now. I'll call you back in a second.
Okay. The thermometer's on the top shelf above. She knows where it's at, and she knows how to work it.
Okay, you want to say hi or?
No, is she doing a podcast with you?
I was talking about to the fans, but anyways.
You're joking, right?
All right, I gotta go. Love you. Bye. I'll call you in a second. Anyways, I think that'll be the end for the day. 30 minutes with Teo. Freak it. Who cares? This is an important topic. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, man. Rest in peace to my father, Mario Omos. I can't wait to have more conversations, to do more episodes, and stay tuned, man. Like, subscribe, share with a friend. Have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever. Peace.